Hello everybody and welcome. My name is Eric and today I'm going to be going over a few tips and tricks on how to prevent any catastrophic damage to your small outboard. And we're talking about between 2 horsepower to like 10, maybe 20 horsepower. Let's get to it. The main reason why I'm making this video today is because one of my viewers actually left a comment recently on one of my videos when I made a 2.5-year review of me owning my Tohatsu 6 horsepower. He said that his experience was not the same. What he failed to mention to me was that he had it on a sailboat, because he later on left a comment with somebody else's comment below on the video saying that he had it on a sailboat, and that gave me more insight of the situation. You see, regardless of brand, regardless of outboard that you get, if you leave your outboard outside exposed to the elements, let's say you're using your small little outboard as a backup for a sailboat or a boat, whatever case may be, it's going to be exposed to the elements. It's going to get damaged. So I'm gonna go over a very, very simple, basic tip on how to prevent that from happening. So let me show you. I got some items back here that I'm gonna talk about in the video today. So they sell these, if you want to call it, outboard covers. They cost maybe 10 to 20 bucks depending on the size of the outboard, and they're quite simple to use. And let me show you. So the viewer had two main concerns that he mentioned. One, that the lever right here, the shifter, since it's plastic, it broke off. The other thing he mentioned was that the carburetor needed to be replaced. I'm like, wait a minute, but what the heck happened? So that's when he gave me the clue. He left it outside for way too long. So I'm gonna go over how to prevent your carburetor from getting clogged up. And but for now, let me show you about the cover. It's a very, very simple fix. They sell them like this, of course. You cover it. Make sure it covers the lever as well. I mean, they sell them big enough. They do. So if you're gonna have your outboard exposed in the elements outside, get yourself a neat little cover. They're inexpensive. It's less expensive to, let's say this cover breaks, to spend 15 bucks on another cover, which they usually last a couple of years, than having to replace the outboard itself. So yeah, here it is. If you're gonna have your outboard exposed in the elements, get a basic cover. These are very good. They usually are hydrophobic. You know, the water, fills around. I mean, yeah, you may have some bugs here and there inside, but it'll be intact. So yeah. So now, what I'm gonna go over is how to prevent your carburetor from being clogged up or you having to replace it. Show you. So right now the engine is running, right? Every time I finish a trip, when I'm on the dock and I'm unpacking for my camping trip or whatever, I usually unplug the fuel line and I let it run until it dies. Literally. By the time I'm getting my car, by the time I'm unpacking, by the time I'm done with all that, the engine usually dies, and that means that the reservoir inside the carburetor gets used up. But what if you don't have an external tank? Some of you guys have small little outboards like 2.3s and 4 and 6 horsepowers. They don't have like an inlet for an external tank. So what do you do then? Very simple. Let me show you. This is to prevent any catastrophic damage to your carburetor and actually preventing having to open it up and clean it. Each carburetor has a little screw that looks like this. That, with a flathead screwdriver, you get to unscrew it very carefully to make sure you don't drop it. Usually most outboards have like a little space right here, as you can see, so if it drops, like in this one, the 6 horsepower Tohatsu, will probably drop in there. But just be careful, okay? Keep that in mind. The moment you open it, all the gasoline that's inside this reservoir gets spilled out. What that will do, if you have the outboard, say, on storage or out there on a sailboat or on a boat as a backup, or something of that nature, over time, if it's gonna be exposed to the elements, you're not using it, that gasoline inside the carburetor doesn't evaporate inside. It doesn't leave the residue of gum or gunked up crap, and that's what causes the carburetors to get, to fail. So if you want to prevent a catastrophic damage on your carburetor, either run it dry the moment you finish your trip if you have an external line like I do, or you can actually open up that little screw that's in the carburetor, and that's pretty much it. So that pretty much covers when it comes to the destruction of the outside of the outboard and carburetor. Now I'm gonna address a few of the questions that some of you viewers left for me. So I'm gonna go over that. I'm currently running it dry. It's about to die. There we go. Come on, die. It's a very efficient engine, so it takes forever to die. Come on. I figured I'll add this this little footage for you guys. There you go, it's dead. That means the gas in the carburetor is done. Okay, so today's video is same as scripted because I need to make sure I keep up with it. I made a list of it. So one of you guys asked, Eric, what should I use or do to remove excess salt deposits inside the engine that may prevent, you know, the water from cooling properly? Well, in the screen right now, I don't have it personally, but in the screen right now, I'm going to show you guys a couple of items that you might need for that. It's called a descaler. It's the scaler detergent. They have a couple of brands. And the descaler detergent goes inside this jug. You guys will see on the picture. You fill up the jug with the detergent. The jug itself connects into either earmuffs, most likely, if you happen to use earmuffs. I personally use a bucket. So in my case, if I was going to do that, I will probably fill it up. I got maybe 6-7 gallons of water right here. And I'll probably put a couple of cups of that and I will run it. Personally, what I do every time after every trip, I use something like this called Mean Green. It's a biodegradable detergent. They have different brands. I will do my best to put links below for your reference or purchase from Amazon and all that good stuff. And this is what I use. I put maybe half a cup of this, or maybe 5-6 gallons of water that's in here. I run the engine and just let it clean for like 15-20 minutes. That's what I personally do. However, for extreme scenarios where there's a lot of what's the word I'm looking for? Salt deposits, then at least scaler will be necessary. So yeah. Now, when it comes to the scaling, there's a couple of things you're going to encounter, a couple of situations. Let me go ahead and turn it on. There we go. Let's make sure it's on. So, you guys see the little pee hole? Right now it's pumping just fine. Let me chill it a little bit. There we go. There are two aspects that may cause the little pee hole to not pump water properly. One is salt buildup. So if you happen to do that, let's say you finish the descaling, you did it, right? You let it run for like 30 minutes, something like that, you descale it, but the pee hole still doesn't shoot water properly. What do you do then? Chances are you might have to replace the impeller. For that, I'm afraid that's a bit more complicated. It isn't like rocket science per se. I had to do it on mine after 200 hours of use. I got 200 plus hours on this outboard. It's fantastic. I love this thing. I had to change the impeller actually, and but I looked up a YouTube video from another YouTuber. I will add that video below in the description for you guys to use. If you happen to change, if you need to change the impeller, it isn't difficult, but it's very meticulous. You gotta take your time with it. So if a descaler doesn't work, you're gonna have to change the impeller if it's not pumping water properly to the little pee hole. So yeah, let's move on to the next things you can do to prevent catastrophic damage. It's hot, I'm sweating. Okay, so now we're gonna talk about basic maintenance. It's quite simple. I personally use a Royal Purple synthetic oil. I removed the sticker. And I use for the gear oil, I use this Quicksilver, Pajama Lube, Merculube, they all work. So don't be intimidated by brands really. For the engine, you preferably wanna use good synthetic oil. It's an A1 or M1, whatever that name is, Castrol. You don't wanna use conventional oil because conventional oil, most of them don't have any water inhibitors that prevent any moisture buildup inside the engine. So you want to stick with good motor oil. And if you're not sure which oil to get, then go ahead and get the boat branded names like Mercury, Yamaha, and all those oils. I'll put links below for you guys as much as I can. You can stick with that. It'll do the job. I prefer Royal Purple because it's very slick. It's very nice. I don't know. It gives the engine like a little extra oomph. It's a very slick oil. So, besides basic maintenance, and there's tons of YouTube videos out there, I made a couple myself about how to do maintenance. I think I'll add those below, how I did the oil and the gear and the gear lube below. Yeah, I'll add those and these little things too, which make adding oil to the gear case a lot easier. I'll add that. All right, so now let's talk about some other tips and tricks. I got here a silicone-based lubricant. I got WD-40, which is basically this, but without the stickiness to it. So, using those, you got tiny itty bitty parts around, like around the tiller itself. You know, these parts, They tend to squeak and they may rust. So I usually squirt a little WD-40 in there, or silicone-based lubricant. I prefer silicone-based because it's stickier. It stays there longer. And if you look around inside the outboard itself, they got this is basically for the fuel. See, it's made of metal, so having that lubed up with either some grease or set lubricants will actually keep everything nice and tidy. And actually, that is a good tip. The last thing you want to consider is, see, the outboard has these joints right here and right here. It's got these little tits that stick out, those little nipples. Tits, look at me. Why am I saying that? You know, I actually have a grease gun, and for the life of me, I couldn't find it. But they sell grease gun. I put a picture on the screen, and you stick it in there, and you can pump some grease in those joints. However, mine from the factory came pretty filled, and the O-rings around are still intact, so it is filled with grease. However, some of you guys may have outboards that have excessive use, or really old, or being exposed to the elements for a long time, and the O-rings around here have broken off and the grease is all dried up. You might want to put some grease. It will allow the turning radius of the outboard to move freely for a very long time before, you know, without wearing out the metals. So yeah, I believe that pretty much covers it all. You know, for basic maintenance, using a cover, using some lubricants to do the little pieces. What else? Rinsing your outboard. I will recommend, if you can, if you have the ability to do so, get a bucket or earmuffs. After every use, after every trip you take, rinse it. It's preventive maintenance. It'll prevent the impeller from deteriorating too quickly, not lasting you very long. Because changing those impellers, it's not like it's a pain. It just takes a little while. You have to really work it. It's got little pieces and parts inside. You have to be careful not to lose. It was, and you know what? I'm gonna say it was a bit of a pain. So if you can prevent that from happening, or not have to do it so often, you know, just rinse it if you can. I got the Slim Jim bucket. I got it for like, I don't know, 20 bucks at Walmart. You know, I'll put links below of it if you need it. It's very convenient. It doesn't use a lot of water and doesn't use a lot of detergent. It cleans the outboard and it gets the job done. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys found this video informative. And to the person that left a comment, I really hope you get to see this video, and hopefully these tips will help you. Because I believe he said he wants to get a Dow brand outboard. He's not happy with the Tohatsu. Regardless of brand that you might get, it doesn't matter. If you don't take care of it, it's going to break. Anyway, guys, see you guys on the next one. Later.